introduce yourself because then you're the gentleman and perhaps the face that is strange on this set. How are you?
I'm very well.
You're good, eh?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's always a pleasure to host you. I know I probably have hosted you in other quarters, but not on this one.
Yeah. So, of course, I'm Steve Ogutu, and I'm with an organization called the Movement for Community-Led Development, which is it's a global network of CSOs, or civil society organizations that's championing the localization of SDGs, basically working with governments and funders across the world to ensure that communities are put at the center and front of development, or what we call here the bottom-up development.
All right, Karibu Sana. Thank you so much for creating time. And now that you're here speaking about gender-based violence, most of the times there's always this feeling that when we're talking about gender-based violence, largely it's about women. And I think that is not it. And so we'll be getting into that just to get to understand what it means, especially when we involve the men. Your Honor, Salimia Watu, tell them who you are, where you come from, and why you're here.
Thank you so much. My name is Damaris Moragua. I work with MSF. MSF is Medicine Sans Frontiers, a French word meaning Doctors Without Borders. It's an international humanitarian medical organization that give medical aid to people in disasters, in exclusion from diseases, and also responding to emergency cases.
All right. Okay, and largely this conversation about gender-based violence, just how far have you penetrated the grassroots, the grounds in terms of addressing this?
As MSF respond to sexual gender-based violence, and we are found at Eastlands. But MSF Eastlands project, we also have Tumaini clinics that respond to cases of sexual gender-based violence. So with gender-based violence, MSF specifically do sexual and gender-based violence. Yes, I know gender-based violence is a wide topic, but we narrow it to sexual and gender-based violence.
All right. Largely when we talk about this, I think I started by saying that we tend to feel like, all these, heinous acts are meted upon women, which is probably not the case. Just how different are you approaching this year's 16 days of, activism towards gender-based violence, especially, in getting the community to understand, creating that awareness that this is not largely about women and perhaps just taking it beyond? Yeah,
true. With MSF, yes, we want to narrow it down to the community to help people to speak about it, because this is something people don't speak about it because it has a lot of stigma and discrimination. So it is important we address these issues the way it is, because both genders are being affected, both men and women, but to find majority are being female. Like for instance, in our project, the MSF project, from last year, November 2023 until today, 2024, from last year to this year, November 2024, we have received 4,258 cases of gender-based violence, and 3,510 are for sexual violence, and majority are women. Yes.
So that's huge, eh?
Yes.
That's quite huge. We'll be coming back to that. But now that she brings stats on board, just what is the status of gender-based violence and equality, if you want to say, that is in Kenya and, say, Africa?
Right. I think she's pointed out very, very good statistics and picture in terms of the reality of gender-based violence in Kenya. Reports by UN suggest that, for every woman, chances of for every 3 women, one of them has to experience some form of gender-based violence throughout their life cycle, and that is a crisis. We've seen it here in terms of the femicide that we have been experiencing in the country. We've seen cases of early marriages for girls. We have seen cases of rape and all forms of gender-based violence. And it's really sad that that is happening in this decade, in this particular time. When you think that these are very backward things that shouldn't really be happening in our present time. But when it comes to issues of gender equality, I think we have made some progress as a country or as a continent,
right.
But we still have a long way to go. There's a report that just came out the other day by the Africa Development Bank that suggests that when it comes to gender index, in terms of how we are performing as a continent, we are still at about 50%. So it means that women are still left behind in terms of how we design and implement our development policies as governments in Africa. And I think we have to really change that. At MCLD, or the Movement for Community-Led Development, we say that sustainable development starts with women. We have to start thinking about, in every development initiative we're crafting, how do we situate women issues in those projects? And that is how we get to attain sustainable development. Globally, it's said that we need at least 134 years to be able to attain some form of gender equality. And we have a lot of work to do.
So when we're talking about equality, then in this case, what exactly are we referring to? Is it in the aspect of leadership that we have not been able to attain the 2/3 gender rule in the country? What exactly are we referring to? Are we talking about the corporate world? Are we talking about, the say, public participation? Are we talking about governments? Are we talking about, just exactly what are we referring to?
Right. I think you look at different indicators that helps you see that. When you look at, for example, the social indicator, we still have some form of, FGMs going on. We have harmful gender norms where certain communities still feel that, women should not have a voice on certain matters. And that takes us back, right? When you look at in the political space, political indicators,
right.
We have been grappling with implementing the 2/3 gender rule. It is very well captured in our constitution, but we have been very, very, I would say, laid back when it comes to coming up with policies to actualize that part of the constitution. And what that means is women are still left behind. We can't keep on having these affirmative actions all the time because they're not sustainable, right? We have to create an environment where, women are able to thrive just as much as men do.
Right.
When it comes to the economic indicators, we know for sure that men still earn more than women in most cases.
Right.
And yet they do the same job. Look at the care economy, for example, where the roles that women play, they wake up early in the morning by 4 to prepare your kid to go to school, you go to shamba and do all these domestic chores. When you convert that into monetary terms, it's a lot of value. And so I think we have a lot of work to do, and as a country, we must rethink our strategy and our policies in terms of gender mainstreaming and, most importantly, women's socioeconomic empowerment.
All right. Damaris, what do you suppose then would be the biggest challenges for us to attain some of this important, like just say we are on the positive side of these indicators that Steve speaks about, and more so when it comes to the question of just addressing gender-based violence, especially these hideous acts that are meted on women, basically now that we're talking about Hasi, but generally, what are some of the obstacles to us addressing concerns of gender-based violence and say that, these are then officially games of the past?
I think there are several obstacles that hinder people from addressing this gender-based violence. It stems from their communities, it stems from their families. For example, for instance, when we talk about sexual gender-based violence, you look at the way my colleague has said, women are mostly affected. And we can also see that from our data at the clinic. Because, for example, for the 10 survivors that we have seen in our clinic, for every 10 women who are coming to, for every 10 people, 9 are women. So it means women still are very vulnerable in the community. But you get, we have obstacles like stigma and discrimination within our society. People are not supporting women who are being discriminated. And also we find, for example, even children, when we look at women and children, children are being violated. 60% of the cases that we have are children. It is because of the stigma, it is because of the social-cultural things that we do have. People don't want to talk about it. People hide these things because they feel shameful. Because, for example, when someone has been sexually violated, and when I come to you, for example, I said, I was sexually violated, how will you see me? If it's a man who has been violated, will he or she, will he be able to talk about it? Will he be comfortable even to talk to his fellow men, telling them that I was violated? There will be, there's no support from the community. And also when we look at the environment that we are living in, are there support systems in terms of the referral pathways? Where do these women go?
All right.
Yeah.
Specifically to MSF, what interventions have you provided? And I mean, what then would be the long-term solutions to some of these concerns?
I think when we look at sexual gender-based violence, it encompasses a lot of things. MSF, we do provide medical care to survivors of sexual gender-based violence. That is medical care, psychosocial support, psychological support, and also counseling. And apart from that, also we do health promotion in the community, because as much as people are coming to the facility, they need to know the importance of coming to the facility. They need to know the importance of going to hospital. They need to know about how to take care of them.
Right.
So we do have health promotion within the community. We do go to schools to talk to empower children. We do empower the parents, and also we do male involvement for men to speak out, for people to support survivors of sexual and gender-based violence.
Okay, lots of effort put towards addressing this, Stephen, and you talk about the reports that have been out, data that is out across every other time we're receiving this. And then we want to ask ourselves, are we on the right track? Because then if we're going to have all these activities ongoing, the 16 days of activism, beyond that, there's always monies that are being channeled towards addressing gender-based violence, across the global fraternity, yet we still are here saying that there's still so much that needs to be done. Would we say we are on the right track?
I'll say that if you look at where we are now and we look 3 decades downwards,
okay,
I think we have made some progress. I think there are moments in this country where it was very impossible or difficult to find a woman, for example, in the cabinet. But we see that. We see a lot of women getting into political leadership, and that is encouraging. We see women taking up and very, very much excelling in STEM courses and things, and businesses and things like that, and that's very great. But I think that we still have a lot of work to do. I think the parts of this country where harmful gender norms are still holding women back. Cases of FGM are still present with us. And those are challenges that we have to address. I think that as a country, we may need to maybe relook at our gender mainstreaming policies and find ways to integrate, gender result frameworks, so that we are able to measure really how we are performing in terms of our efforts to mainstream gender. Not just in the public service, but across also in the development space.
All right.
I think there's need for the government to avail a lot of funding. I think most of the funding that we get that goes toward issues of GBV and gender issues are largely from the donors, right? But I think the government must create a budget.
We play the devil's advocate and say that the president, I'm sorry to cut you short, released 100 million shillings the other day towards addressing femicide.
Right.
Even as you speak to what it is that the donors give us, what do you make of that? And I mean, just what needs to be done to address the femicide cases that we witnessed that come at a time when we are again getting to that space of the 16 days of activism? It's an irony.
Right. And I started by saying that we acknowledge that the government has done quite a bit. There's progress. But I think we also recognize that there are still gaps that need to be filled. And I think when it comes to the issue of femicide, we shouldn't even be here talking about that. I think it's really unfortunate. The close to 100 lives that we have lost just in this year, it's just one too many. And I think there are bodies that are charged with the responsibility to safeguard us as citizens and carry out investigations. I hope that that can be done and perpetrators of these heinous acts can be brought to book.
Right.
And just stand action taken by the government to ensure that women are safe in school, at home, and everywhere. Yeah, right.
All right, and the latest report from the United Nations Women, of course, speaking to the concerns of femicide, and they narrow it down to the fact that most of these heinous acts are conducted by family members, loved ones, and therefore making this home not a safe space for most of the girls. We're not talking about this, again, equally attributed to the concerns, of mental health. What are some of the things that you're doing as MSF towards addressing or perhaps providing medical and psychological support across?
For what MSF is doing currently for survivors of sexual violence, sexual gender-based violence, we do have, we're working in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. We have centers called Tumaini clinics. Tumaini meaning hope for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, that we know that we have the Tumaini clinics in different areas. We have at Dandora Youth Center, we have at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital, Kasarani Health Center, and also at our clinic, Lavender House Clinic. So MSF, apart from providing the medical care, we support survivors of sexual and gender-based violence in psychosocial support. As much as this, it cannot be seen, because the physical thing you can see, but inside the mentally, once someone has been sexually violated, it's difficult to see the wounds they have. So supporting them to heal, to come in terms with ACT, we offer psychosocial support, and also working in collaboration with other partners. We also provide, we also refer cases in terms of protection, especially when it comes to children. And as you've said, majority of these cases are performed by people we know, because as from the clinic that we have, 60% are people that we know. They're not strangers. And majority happens by our loved ones. For example, like children, cases of incest in our homes. That is why when it comes to reporting such a case, it's difficult, because, for example, it's a father who has violated a child, and then the father is the breadwinner. Then it's very difficult for this mom to stand with a child, and because she knows when I report such cases, what happens to me next. So it is important we value, we have value for our children also. Yes. And also, we also we offer, as much as we're providing the medical support, we do medical legal, in terms of we do go to courts as medical witness to affirm that this is the client that came to our facility and these are the findings that we got. So we work with the survivor. Yes.
All right, and we are at this space of the 16 days of activism. Just how significant and important are these days, and even just taking the conversation beyond the days?
Right. I think the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is a key moment, key global moment, for different actors to just pause and reflect, look at what is working, what is not working. in terms of programs that we have around tackling gender mainstreaming and GBV issues. It's a moment to also raise awareness that, hey, we have made progress, but we still have femicide happening in Kenya, and bold actions need to be taken. And therefore, I think as a country, it should present a moment to us to rethink where we want to go in terms of issues to do with gender mainstreaming. Like I said, the 2/3 gender rule is still hanging out there, and we don't see any meaningful action toward implementing that. Anytime we see the debate being taken to Parliament, there's always a quorum issue, right? And I think that has to take a very deliberate, bold move by the President and the leaders of this country to make that happen, including party leaderships. When it comes to the issue of femicide, I think I like what the President said the other day. He came out and addressed the nation, and I think that was great. But what we need to see is bodies that are charged with holding these perpetrators to account, like the DCI and the National Police Service. They really have to, do their job and get these perpetrators to book. But I think broadly as a community, we have to really try and get rid of these harmful gender norms. I mean, there shouldn't be space for GBV in this country. There shouldn't be, or anywhere else in the world, there shouldn't be space for FGM. And these are things that require certain mindset shift. This traditional, harmful gender norms mindset shift, really has to happen for us to attain sustainable outcomes when it comes to this effort. How
critical is collaboration in this case? Because then for a long time, there's also been this talk that, perhaps men are not joining into the conversation of FGM, for instance, and all that. We keep talking about, high level and stakeholder engagements as opposed to going back to the ground. We now get to see the community involved. We now get to see the participatory approach to it. Just how critical is it?
And that's a very good point you're raising. At the Movement for Community-Led Development, we say development happens in communities, right? And therefore, to your question, I would say solutions to issues of GBV also starts at community level, at family level. She's given very great examples of these cases of incest that happens within family and things like this. And so these changes has to happen right from within households and communities. And I think for some time there has been a notion, most of these programs that are designed to address GBV haven't been integrating men in it, men in these debates. Yet in most cases, when you talk about GBV, then the perpetrators are actually men, right? And this can become men can become very important allies when it comes to fighting this menace, because you get to change their mindset. They begin to become change agents and reach out to other men out there who are perpetrating similar cases and making them become responsible citizens and people who can stand against GBV, against women, and protect our girls and women wherever we are.
All right, Damaris, as we come to a close and as you give us your parting shot, we just get to see how impactful, say, international intervention has been. Even as we have this conversation, even as we want to bring it down to the people, how do we get to leverage and, get to synchronize the two so that then we get it right moving forward?
I think it is important, the way my colleague has said, let's start from the grassroots. Even before we start, even before we go to the international, because this thing is more socially. So because when we start with the grassroots level, when we start with collaboration, strengthening our health systems, and then with empowering our community, empowering our men, men, they need to speak out. They don't need to shy away from this. The way he's saying, we need to look at men as agents of change. Rather than just looking at them as the perpetrators. So we have to work in collaboration with each and every person. In terms even internationally, we have to highlight the issues that we see, and also that the issues that we see also can be supported by data. And if it's not reported, then it becomes an issue also. Right. So you find most of the cases that are not reported, it becomes a challenge also. So we need to work together. We need to work together as a community, as international, and also with the Ministry of Health, especially with the community strategies. Right now, we have the community health promoters. They are very key in this angle. So together we can do change, and that is why MSF, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, we're coming together to ensure that each and every survivor can have access to medical care. Beautiful. Because that is the most important thing for survivors of sexual violence, to seek medical care within 72 hours, so that we can curb the triple threat, the ending HIV, ending pregnancy, and also to curb I've said pregnancy, HIV, and STIs. Right. And also to tell them the importance of coming to the clinic, also for the medical legal. You know, sometimes the majority of the cases that we get also are from the police, which are most people look at it more legally, but they should start to looking at more medical first, because once you go to the medical care, that is when you can proceed with the legal. So it is important to work together straight from where we have started, straight from the grassroots to the international. That is how we can be able to curb this menace.
Thank you so much. In 30 seconds, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say that I think one of the missing link in this quest to address GBV is I think we need to have additional safe houses and safe spaces for GBV survivors. And out there, just request the president or the relevant ministry or even counties to ensure that at least in every ward we have at least a safe house for survivors of GBV. Because that's very important when it comes to the healing process and the reintegration and just, you know, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. This is a part of our commitment as Cape Media. That is TV47, Radio 47, as well as TV47 Digital, to expound this conversation. We wouldn't say it's the beginning. We are into it, and we'll still continue the conversation on our different or various broadcasts. On Tuesday, we'll be having a special edition on the same, that is on Kikau, beginning 7 p.m. and running all the way to 11 p.m. because it is important that we are part and parcel of this critical conversation. Until that day where we say that end or we have taken GBV to be a game of the past, we do not tire. Thank you so much. Last speaker, Steve Ogutu, Executive Director, Movement for Community-Led Development Kenya. Asante Sana, as well as Damaris Muragwa, Health Promoter, MSF Eastlands. Asanteni Sana, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to have you join us and, you know, articulate very, very important matters as to this important subject. It's at this very point that we must close as well. We appreciate your feedback, but we must exit the stage because the dancers are about to hit here. Shut down, stand by with a crew, and you get the best of Saturday night. My name is Linda Alela. Do have yourself a lovely night ahead. I look forward to see you again next week. Bye-bye.